From ancient Chinese fire lances to medieval European cannons, gunpowder irrevocably altered warfare, yet early firearms still left soldiers vulnerable in close quarters. Imagine a 17th century battlefield where a musketeer, having fired his single shot, became little more than a target, defenseless against a charging pikeman or cavalry. This critical vulnerability persisted for centuries, demanding a revolutionary solution to integrate ranged firepower with melee defense. For much of the 17th century, European armies relied on a precarious balance between musketeers, providing ranged fire, and pikemen, forming a defensive hedge against cavalry and close-quarters infantry assaults. This pike and shot formation was a necessary compromise, but it created logistical challenges in tactical inflexibility, requiring distinct training and deployment for two different types of soldiers. The sheer length and weight of pikes, often 16 to 18 feet long, made them cumbersome to maneuver, while muskets, though powerful, were slow to reload and useless once an enemy closed the distance. This inherent weakness meant that a significant portion of an army had to be dedicated to pikes, reducing the overall firepower available on the battlefield. The stage was set for an innovation that would combine the destructive power of the musket with the defensive capabilities of the pike, creating a single, versatile infantryman. This transformative weapon emerged from a seemingly simple concept, born out of necessity and ingenuity in the heart of France. The first rudimentary bayonets appeared in 17th century France, specifically credited to artisans near the city of Bayonne in the Basque country, from which the weapon likely derived its name. Initially, these were simple hunting knives or daggers, crudely shoved into the barrel of a musket. These early iterations, known as plug bayonets, were a desperate but effective measure for musketeers to defend themselves in a melee. Historical accounts suggest their use in skirmishes and local conflicts in the 1640s and 1650s, providing a temporary solution to the musketeer's vulnerability. However, the plug bayonet had a critical flaw. By inserting it directly into the musket's muzzle, it rendered the firearm completely inoperable. Once fixed, the soldier could no longer fire, converting his musket into a cumbersome spear. This limitation severely hampered its tactical utility, restricting its use to last resort defense rather than an integrated offensive tool. Armies still desperately needed a solution that would allow musketeers to retain their firing capability while also having a reliable melee weapon. The first significant improvement came with the ring bayonet, or swivel bayonet, which featured a ring or two that slipped over the musket barrel, allowing the bayonet blade to sit alongside the muzzle. This design permitted the musket to be fired even with the bayonet attached. While an advancement, the ring bayonet was still imperfect. It could easily become dislodged during combat or vigorous movement. Furthermore, the rings could sometimes interfere with the musket's sighting or barrel expansion upon firing, posing further challenges for soldiers on the chaotic battlefield. The true breakthrough arrived in the late 1680s with the invention of the socket bayonet. This ingenious design featured a metal sleeve, or socket, that slid over the exterior of the musket barrel, locking into place with a lug on the barrel's underside. Crucially, it left the musket bore unobstructed. The exact inventor of the socket bayonet is debated, but many credit the French military engineer and Marshal of France, Sébastien Le Prestre de Vauban, or his contemporaries, for its development and widespread adoption. Vauban, serving under King Louis XIV, was a visionary who understood the potential for military innovation. The socket bayonet was a monumental leap forward, effectively merging the musket and the pike into a single, highly versatile weapon. A musketeer could now fire his weapon, then instantly transition to close-quarters combat without removing the bayonet, maintaining a formidable defense. King Louis XIV French army was among the first to fully embrace this technology. By 1689, the French forces began equipping their infantry regiments with socket bayonets on a large scale, recognizing its immense tactical advantages. This adoption marked the beginning of the end for the traditional pikeman. The impact on army composition was immediate and profound. With musketeers now capable of defending themselves in a melee, the need for separate companies of pikemen rapidly diminished. This allowed armies to field more musketeers, drastically increasing their overall firepower. By the early 18th century, particularly during the War of the Spanish Succession, 1701 to 1714, the socket bayonet had become standard issue across most major European armies, including British, Dutch, and Austrian forces. This universal adoption underscored its critical role in modernizing infantry. The disappearance of pikemen allowed for lighter, more agile infantry formations. Troops could move faster, deploy more flexibly, and present a continuous line of both fire and steel, revolutionizing battlefield tactics and accelerating the pace of engagements. One of the most significant tactical innovations enabled by the bayonet was the enhanced infantry square. Traditionally, squares were formed by pikemen to repel cavalry, with musketeers often taking refuge inside. Now, musketeers themselves could form an impenetrable hedge of bayonets. This new infantry square, bristling with bayonets on all sides, became the ultimate defensive formation against cavalry charges throughout the 18th and 19th centuries. It allowed infantry to stand their ground even against overwhelming mounted assaults, changing the balance of power on the battlefield. The bayonet also played a crucial role in offensive actions, notably the bayonet charge. While psychological more than purely lethal in many cases, a mass charge of infantry with fixed bayonets could break enemy morale and rout formations, even before physical contact was made. The Battle of Malplaquet in 1709, a pivotal engagement during the War of the Spanish Succession, showcased the bayonet's integration into large-scale combat. Though not solely responsible for the outcome, the ability of infantry to hold ground and engage in close combat with bayonets was critical amidst the brutal fighting. Beyond Europe, the bayonet's influence extended to colonial conflicts, where European powers utilized disciplined infantry armed with muskets and bayonets to assert dominance. Its simplicity and effectiveness made it a universal tool for projecting power and maintaining order. The bayonet's design underwent further refinements over the centuries, evolving into various forms like the sword bayonet and knife bayonet, each tailored to specific roles or weapons. Yet, the core principle of a blade attached to a firearm remained constant. Surprisingly, the bayonet endured far beyond the age of black powder, seeing extensive use through both world wars and even into modern conflicts. Its psychological impact and utility in specific close-quarters scenarios ensured its longevity, proving its timeless value. The bayonet's legacy is not just in its physical form but in how it transformed military organization and doctrine. It solidified the role of the individual infantryman as a versatile combatant, capable of both ranged and close-quarters engagement. The invention of the socket bayonet was a pivotal moment in military history, comparable in its revolutionary impact to the introduction of gunpowder itself. It streamlined armies, intensified infantry combat, and laid the groundwork for modern combined arms tactics. From a crude hunting knife to a sophisticated military attachment, the bayonet's journey reflects the continuous human drive for innovation in warfare. It solved a fundamental problem, turning a weakness into a strength, and forever changed how battles were fought. The merger of pike and musket into a single, unified weapon created an infantry that was both deadly at range and formidable up close. This single innovation freed armies from the cumbersome pike, allowing for greater maneuverability and a concentration of firepower unseen before. The bayonet, therefore, represents not just a weapon, but a fundamental shift in military philosophy, elevating the musketeer to the undisputed king of the battlefield infantry. It allowed for the development of highly disciplined, self-sufficient infantry units. Yet, even as infantry perfected their bayonet charges in defensive squares, another personal weapon was becoming increasingly refined, destined to play a vital role in duels, close-quarters combat, and the hands of officers, the flintlock pistol. Join us next time as we explore the age of dueling and the evolution of these iconic sidearms.